Hello, everyone. We're going to wait 2 more minutes before starting. We have a lot of people joining, so thank you for your patience. So let's wait 1 more minute. We have still a lot of people joining, and we'll be good to start. Okay, I think we'll get started at this point. So good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining this webinar. Really excited to be hosting this one today. This webinar will cover how to build an integrated IT ecosystem using EfficientIP API first DDI solution, and then gain more agility. I'm here with Jason. Hello, Jason. It's a pleasure to co-host this webinar with you. And I will let you introduce yourself.
Thank you, Renan. It's a pleasure to be here. And hello, everyone in the audience. My name is Jason Walsh. I'm a pre-sales customer solutions architect with EfficientIP. And I've been with EfficientIP for over 4 years. But prior to that, I've been managing networks and namespace in healthcare for over a decade.
Thank you, Jason. On my side, my name is Renan David. I'm one of the co-founder and chief strategy officer at EfficientIP. I have been working in the DDI industry for over 20 years, focusing on helping organizations to enhance their network and security infrastructure. So before starting, just a few quick housekeeping notes. So today's session will last about 45 minutes and is going to be split into 3 parts. So we will start with a brief presentation, followed by a live demonstration, and then we will wrap up with a Q&A session. So feel free to ask questions in the chat at any time. We will address them during the Q&A at the end of the session. So be aware that this webinar is being recorded, and you will receive a link to the recording along with the presentation in the coming days. So we hope you will enjoy the session. So if we take a look to the agenda, we will start looking at some of the key trends driving the shift toward integrated IT ecosystem. Next, we will explore EfficientIP Unified DDI solution and see how we are supplying a backbone for an integrated infrastructure. We will then very quickly address points related to the documentations and how to use EfficientIP documentations related to APIs, and then moving to concrete example related to the ecosystem integration with a live demo, and then finalizing with key takeaways and a Q&A session. So again, do not hesitate to ask questions. We'll address them at that moment. So why an integrated ecosystem is essential? The network infrastructure is becoming much more complex, distributed across various environments. We have more and more connected devices, more and more applications. And today, 91% of network automation strategy are relying on multi-tools strategy. So it means that this point is structuring the way to envision network automation. And when we look at the challenges faced by IT leaders, they are at 80% explaining that data silos, disconnected data management is hurting the ability to ensure digital transformation. And it has consequence in terms of network outages at a very important level, as 40% of organizations are giving a testimony that they are facing network outages due to human errors over the last 3 years. So it has driven the need for much more, of course, automation across the board. And it is something that we can see in the last EMS survey as a 50% increase of the overall level of network automation will be executed over the end of 2025. Strong dynamic. However, we have significant challenges and pain points. The first one is related to the legacy systems, which are still used and which are lacking modern interfaces, limiting the abilities and to connect tools to each other. Same point related to the lack of openness and the use of standardized, I would say, and robust APIs that are also limiting the ability to connect applications and tools to each other. The third component, which is extremely important, and we will spend time on this, is related to the network source of truth and the problem for organization to build a comprehensive network source of truth, enabling to have a consistent data management across the different systems, network and security systems. And it is something which is then reflected also in terms of coordination among the teams, the security teams, the network teams that are very often still operating in silos. And it is, of course, a challenge with the objective to deliver end-to-end automation. And finally, last point, which is still a very structuring point, is the shortage related to skills, which are related to tools that are used or technologies used within the IT environment. So how EfficientIP solution can help with regard to this trend and these challenges, pain points we have just seen? So EfficientIP is offering a unified DDI solution. I will go quick on this, which is based on an all-in-one technology platform articulated around 4 main pillars. The first one is dedicated to core network services, meaning the ability to offer an integrated DNS, DHCP, and IP address management automation in a multi-vendor environment. So from a single pane of glass, having the possibility to manage Microsoft, open source, and EfficientIP DNS and DHCP services, for instance, offering advanced visibility across all these different environments, and more importantly, increasing the velocity in terms of service uptime. The second component is related to the network automation, and more specifically, the ability to get an accurate network source of truth, the ability to make dynamic network discovery on-prem or in the cloud in various environments, Azure, Google Compute, in order to collect the data, consolidate the data within a centralized database, and ensure the overall consistency through advanced reconciliation mechanism. And it will be a foundation for establishing end-to-end automation, as we will see in the demo. Two more components, one related to security, and more specifically DNS-centric security, in order to make DNS your first line of defense, in order to protect, detect, and respond against cyber threat, and throughout the life cycle. Last component is related to intelligent application traffic steering we are offering, leveraging also the DNS protocol by delivering DNS-based edge global server load balancing. The objective is to help you to optimize the application delivery performance, help you also to increase the overall resiliency of the application delivery, and then improve the user experience. One of the starting points for the automation strategy we have at EfficientIP is to deliver a built-in network source of truth, meaning the capacity for you to get an authoritative inventory of your IP-related resources. And it's going far beyond DDI. It encompasses, of course, IPAM, DNS, DHCP in a multi-vendor environment, but it also includes VLAN, application inventory, network object inventory. So building this network source of truth will help you as a starting point to connect with the IT ecosystem. Now, this DDI-enabled NSOT has been built by EfficientIP by offering really a comprehensive set of data models. The objective is to help you to structure the way the data will be managed for the different technologies you may use in terms of DNS and DHCP. So we have different data models for the IPAM, DNS, DHCP that will work together in order to ensure this full consistency across the board, across the different technologies. We will be not only offering data model for the inventory of IPAM, DNS, DHCP, VLAN, as you can see on this slide, but also a specific data model related to network discoveries in the cloud or on-premise, in order to be able to, as I was explaining before, to collect the data as they are on the network, and then consolidate those data within the centralized NSOT, but doing this smartly. We're going to harmonize the data. Of course, the data structure could be different if it's coming from Google Compute or AWS. And retrieving the data, we will ensure data harmonization for smooth data management processes. The network object inventory is another component which is important to integrate in EfficientIP strategy, because the objective is really to give you the ability to plan, build, and then automate from including the topology part of your network. And it will be done with the possibility also for you to include within this set of data model what we name custom database, for managing smartly data that are, for instance, related to metadata, and you want to structure the way the metadata will be managed. We will have a clear example during the demo on how we can leverage this component. So moving forward, this slide is just illustrating that thanks to a DDI-enabled NSOT, we are helping you to connect the dots within resources that are in the database, and we will be managing the complex relationship between all the different IP-related resources in order to ensure this overall consistency, in order to ensure that you have immediate access to the data, understanding what are all the links between each of the components you have in our database. So very deep understanding on connections within all the resources. And finally, it's the starting point for this centralized management and advanced automation we are targeting to offer. And I think that this slide is perfectly illustrating EfficientIP vision and strategy. We position DDI and DDI enabled and sought as a network automation hub, meaning that leveraging EfficientIP technology and this built-in network source of truth, which is maintained as accurate thanks to this discovery mechanism we have and reconciliation process, to make sure that data that are in the database are just a reality and you can control the drift in case of errors that are detected. You have a very strong foundation in terms of data quality to ensure proper connection with third-party applications. And third-party applications can be very diverse. We can connect with security tools, other automation tools, like we can see on the slide, SDN, CM, network controller, or orchestrator. And the thing which is important is that in this approach, we are activating the service up to the last mile, meaning that we are truly offering network automation up to the end by activating and making dynamic configuration of DNS and DHCP services that are then enabling you to have application live and devices connected to the network. So we have built, of course, a very rich ecosystem of technical partners in order to enable very easy integration with your existing IT components with the objective to enhance the overall operational efficiency, gain this agility, as we were saying at the beginning of this webinar, but not only, it's also about robustness, scalability, we can offer through this approach. Now, just to finalize, important to keep in mind that we have, of course, this list of existing plugin with a no-code approach. So very easy to activate a connection between EfficientIP solutions and maybe existing Fortinet or Cisco IC products you have within your network infrastructure. Now, it's also important for EfficientIP to give you more flexibility in the way you can integrate. So we have defined some templates you can use and adapt according to some specific implementations you are willing to do. It's the low-code approach. And finally, if you have a need for a fully customized implementation, you have the pro-code approach. And we are offering, I believe, the most advanced flexibility, as what we have done at the interface level is just using EfficientIP API. So the GUI is just an example of the implementation that are possible to do. So as a conclusion slide for this part, we can see that EfficientIP strategy is, of course, to offer scalable, robust, and advanced DDI automation capacities. But we believe that the role of DDI is going far beyond this and is a key component for enabling the automation journey and making network team, cloud and application teams, and also security teams more collaborative and then deliver advanced efficiency. I will give the lead to Jason. Jason, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Renan. I'm happy to take it from here. And I'll echo Ronan's comment earlier. I'm very excited to be with you all today because APIs unlock interoperability between systems and ease automation. What more is there to say? Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next time. But seriously, what's better than that? Taking yourself out of the equation, setting it once, and having it pay you back day after day after day. But how do we wield such power? So as Ron mentioned, I'm going to take just a couple of quick slides here. We're going to talk about the APIs, the differences between them, some supportive information, documentation, how to get started, where is this stuff, and we're going to talk about a few new and noteworthy integrations before we get into a live product demo to cap things off. So first, let's set our table. We have three types of APIs. The first one is the kind of the starter API. It's for the simple use cases, and that would be our Open API v2. Easy to use, and that is object oriented. So you think the common verb suspects like get, put, post, and delete would be part and parcel with our API v2. Getting into the more robust service-oriented API, it would be our representational state transfer or REST API. I think Ronan touched on this too, is that we have parity between the API and the graphical UI, and we are a RESTful API first organization, so those new features are going to hit the API first, so that REST is always included with whatever we want to do, no matter how much code is involved. And then finally, we have our RPC API, which is the system itself. That's the low-level communication between the front-end user interface and the database system on the back end. So API documentation is, we've got quite a bit of it. It's in a couple of different locations. Those areas are increasing as far as where we can get this. So right now, all the documentation is available through myefficientip.com. And beginning with our upcoming software release 9.0, you'll be able to have a link directly within the graphical user interface to bring you to the corresponding documentation. We have a SOLIDserver API package and corresponding guide. The API package, it brings an additional method to execute SOLIDserver commands using the REST mechanism through a dedicated graphical interface based on the Open API standard. This was formerly known as Swagger. So the package guide and the package simplifies the calls for objects, in the modules, IPAM, DNS, DHCP, even global server load balancing through our application module, as well as a Guardian Device Manager and VLAN Manager. So the API package includes the services list, count, info, add, and delete. We'll go on to the next slide. And we do have an Open API v2, as we mentioned, that is our starter, kind of easy to use API. There is that robust objects library with it. What we're looking at here is actually a window for the API package to be able to help structure and send test calls. So it's a great place to kind of get started with the API itself. And there's only a couple of objects listed there at the bottom, but that is a tiny, tiny drop in the bucket of objects that we offer. Literally hundreds, anywhere from IP addresses to pools to DNS servers to VLANs are available to be modified via the API. And we also have the mother load, which is our earth-shatteringly large REST API guide that's available from our website, and as I mentioned earlier, soon from directly in the portal of the application itself. But this gets into the weeds and is the perfect match for power users. Everything in there from how to structure calls to working with custom metadata and API services is included as part of the guide. So we're inching closer to our live product demo, but before we get there, we want to touch on some new and noteworthy integrations. So just a couple of quick slides here. The first, it happens to be one of the two systems that we're going to be interacting with here in a moment, and that is Fortinet. Now, who would have thought that we can apply firewall security policy by doing nothing more than assigning an IP address? And with the integration between Fortinet and us, the joint solution, you can do exactly that. So you can synchronize the creation, modification, and deletion of IPs, subnets, and IP pools between SolidServer and Fortinet. Keeping the source of truth completely synchronized with the next-gen firewall adheres us to our organization's security policies And the SecOps, DevOps, they love it because all they have to do is request an IP address. It comes over to the network folks, and they can assign an IP address, and we are off to the races. Cisco ICE is the second service that we're going to do a live demonstration of. And this is another big one, right? Because Identity Services Engine, that is important to keep those devices and MAC addresses accurate with regard to the representation of devices that are out in the environment. And these policies and IPs, as far as keeping all that straight with the synchronicity between ICE and EfficientIP, we need to make sure that when we provision those addresses that we have a MAC address that is pinned to that IP address and that ICE knows how to apply that appropriate policy. And if we're moving along and something changes and all of a sudden that MAC address on the Identity Services Engine side changes and is no longer accurately reflected in IPAM, IPAM is going to run that report and it's going to alert us that something has changed. So we're going to be continuing to check over time. Our third integration to note is ServiceNow. I've got only 2 words for the group today, and that's Flow Designer. So when we're talking about no code and extending the time savings that IT service management can bring to us all, working ourselves out of a job might be not the right phrase, but we should all ask ourselves, how do I work myself out of the process? So is a user requesting an IP address? Maybe we need to make sure that we tag that IP address with the right metadata for accurate reporting, or maybe we're building a new network and we want to reserve a swath of the IP schema, maybe a couple of pools for a specific use or a specific team, or maybe we just want to get information about something that already exists. Maybe we're going to search for a network to get the details around it, or some other object within the IPAM database. But having this connection back to for service management really kind of extends that ability to provision right through ServiceNow. Now we're kind of inching closer to getting into more of a low code with our integrations for orchestration engines, scripters, and automators, Ansible's included. We just very well might be your playbook's most valuable player when it comes to interacting with EfficientIP to manage, deploy, and really in the entire life cycle of systems and services. So it's infrastructure as a code. This can span hybrid cloud, local and remote locations, and act as that layer to orchestrate with EfficientIP SolidServer so that IPAM deployments, record creation, IP addresses are all managed automatically and as part of your playbook. And then last but not least, and similar to Ansible, would be our Terraform provider. It is robust and getting stronger by the day. So the easy integration with Terraform, which is the open source tool for infrastructure as code, it enables us to define and provision infrastructure through the declarative configuration language that we're used to with Terraform. We handle all the basics, IP addresses, even DNS smart assignments and views, right down to DNS zones, records, and even VLANs. So that's all great, but where do we get this stuff? Well, we have a presence on GitHub. We have a repository. We're part of GitLab. So all these plugins, there's no additional licensing needed to enable to take use of these. So you can download them, add the packages into the environment, which we're going to see in just a couple of minutes, and we can get automating. Above and beyond that, you can always inquire with your account team if you have any questions or can't find what you're looking for. All right, thank you, Ronan, for driving those slides. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen. And at the top of my window, I've got 3 tabs. The first tab is my EfficientIP SolidServer IPAM Manager. My second tab is my Fortinet Next Gen Firewall. And my third tab is my Cisco Identity Services Engine. So let's start by logging into all 3. And we'll just go right down the line here. Okay. Starting with our EfficientIP SOLIDserver, we're going to go down to our administration section. Here, under customization, we've got some options here that includes Packager. This is our modular code that's able to be installed in your SOLIDserver system that is going to enhance or change its behavior. In this case, we have a couple of packages installed to demonstrate our integration capability. We're going to start with the first one, which is the Cisco ICE. So once that Cisco ICE package is installed through our package menu, that's going to do a couple of things in the system. The first thing that's going to do over here underneath Expert, we're going to poke into rules here. And here's a list of every single rule in the entire system. So I'm going to filter down just to show us the ones that we want to focus in today. And we've got our Cisco Identity Services Engine rules here. So I'm going to inspect one of these by editing its properties. We can see that we have a scheduler, so we want to be able to control when and how often the systems are synchronizing with the Identity Services Engine. We've also got our endpoint information as well as a username and password for authentication against that system. And all of the groups that are included in Identity Services Engine can be synchronized with us. So we've got the full Monty, but we don't need to. We can select and pare down the groups that we either want to share or exclude from synchronization. And if things change over time, as I had touched on a previous slide, where maybe a MAC address on Identity Services Engine changes and is no longer in synchronization with what IPAM believes it to be, that is a periodic report that can be run, and we can be alerted to any of those deltas. So we've got that rule installed and the authentication and endpoint information added, which means that synchronization is now live and occurring. And we've done one more thing since synchronizing with Identity Services Engine. So I'm going to go back to administration here under customization, and we're going to look into custom DB. There is a custom database that has been automatically provisioned for us, and the contents of that custom database is the list of groups that we have filtered for our synchronization. So with that package installed and the rule created, we're now ready to take advantage of that integration. So let's do it. We're going to go to our IPAM tab. We're going to drill into our EfficientIP space. We're going to go into our test ISE network. And we're going to provision an IP address. We'll click on the first addressable address in the range. Go ahead and say yes. We're going to choose our ICE endpoint address class. And now we're going to type in our name. We're going to add a MAC address here, make that easily recognizable. And we have two fields, identity group as well as conflict. Conflict should be blank unless we said earlier that IP address or the MAC address becomes unsynced. Something changes there. We want to know about it. That field is going to illuminate. Until then, though, we're just going to choose our drop down and pick our list here. So why don't we use registered devices? Now, before I go much further in this wizard, I'm going to pop over to Identity Services Engine. I'm going to go to Administration and Groups. Here's our same list. I'm going to go right into Registered Devices. And we've got nothing here currently, so that's good. Let's see what we've got when we hit Next. We've got one more question here to satisfy the wizard with regard to an alias. Nothing's needed today, so we'll go ahead and hit OK. Meanwhile, we can flip back to Identity Services Engine and refresh our registered devices group. And there we go. We've got the device synchronized with Identity Services Engine. If I flip back and we say, you know what, we're all done with this. We're going to clean this resource up. Let's delete this. And we'll be back at ICE, refresh, and that object is no longer there. Starting right back over from the top, I'm just going to go back to the packager here in central administration and point out that we do have a separate package that has been installed to enable the Fortinet integration capability. Now I'm going to go back over here, just kind of retracing our steps as we did with Identity Services Engine, but now for Fortinet, we're going to go back into rules, and we have a couple of Fortinet rules that were created. So much like we did with the ICE rule, we're going to take a look at the rules contents. Very similar window here, so we've got the information needed to reach the Fortinet endpoint as well as authentication information. Now we're going to go back up to IPAM. We're going to go into EfficientIP. We're going to go into our FortiGate test network. And let's do the same. Let's go ahead and assign an address. We're going to choose our Fortinet integration class. And here I have this grayed out because I wanted to point out that inheritance is an option for these. But you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and add this to the allow group as a one-off. And any CNAMEs or aliases are not required, so we'll go ahead and hit OK. So now if we go over to our FortiGate here, we didn't even need to hit refresh. It's popped right over here, 10.0.1.1, my other test server. And if I edit this to zoom in a little bit, we're going to see that also the solid server is going to timestamp this for a record anytime that object is created or modified so that we've got a historical log of when these events occurred. Meanwhile, I can go back up here into IPAM, and since we've already seen the object exist within Fortinet, let's delete it and see if we can pull that out. We don't need the server anymore, therefore we don't want that vestigial configuration to remain on Fortinet. So we're going to hit a refresh, and we have that address pulled out automatically. And one final step before I hand it back to Ronan, I'm going to go back down here to administration. And just kind of want to point out that with these types of integrations, I'm going to go into our syslog here, and we can see that the servers that were created and added with our third-party systems were reflected within our syslog so that your syslog collector or SIM will be able to stay in tune with exactly what's happening. And from our own product perspective, I'm going to just navigate lastly to user tracking, and the same creation, remediation, and deletion of those objects as they're synchronized with those third-party systems are also reflected on a per-user basis within user tracking. And that concludes the real-world demo.
Thank you very much, Jason. Very instructive, very concrete. So I will now move to the key takeaways of this session. So let me just switch to the full screen mode. So very quickly, and again, thank you very much, Jason, to walk through this concrete integration we have with Cisco IC and Fortinet, with a then focus on the security automation processes. So key takeaways. First, I think one of the very important points is related to the DDI-enabled NSOT as a strong and required foundation for delivering advanced automation capacity by offering consistent, accurate, up-to-date, authoritative repository of your IP-related data. The second point is the ability to drive seamless integration with a very large variety of technologies. We have seen the ecosystem we are working with. We have discussed the flexibility of the APIs in order to be able to connect with a very large ecosystem. And it's not only about connecting IT tools, it's also the ability to enforce some specific management rules you may have defined, enforce naming convention of object, for instance, when deploying an IP address, and do this across the board. And bottom line, this different integration is really helping to increase the overall operational efficiency and then agility across the different network teams. So thank you very much. We're gonna now move to the Q&A session.
We have a question here. I just saw it a moment ago. Here it is. Is there any training available for APIs? We do. We've developed a dedicated curriculum for API learning. We have, as we kind of touched on, the documentation, the API package for baby steps, but we also have self-paced and up to instructor-led training options when it comes to APIs. We love to help our customers automate. Next question. Do I need to update, upgrade, restart if I integrate a new solution through APIs? So straight away, if you've got EfficientIP SolidServer, then you have the full and complete inbound as well as event-driven outbound API notifications and the ability to include integrations with that. There could always be perhaps a new version of code that would include new features. So it's possible that that a code upgrade would eventually be needed. But as far as enabling the integration in APIs right off of the platform today, no restarts are needed, no updates are needed, no upgrades are needed. Next question. We've got a few. How easy is it to get started with network automation? Best first step for SolidServer DDI. We touched on the no-code options with Fortinet and Cisco. It's pretty straightforward to install the package without having to get your feet wet in any type of an API structure or code language. So I think that's a great place to start. If we're getting our dipping our toes in as far as actually working with the programming and APIs, that API v2, which is that object base, is a great place to start, especially when you're using that Swagger-like interface to help you structure the calls. 2 versions of the REST API. Yes. Yep. We have the RESTful Open API as well as the SOAP API. Aruba ClearPass integration. Yes, we have an integration with Aruba ClearPass. So if we want to exchange contextual information with network access control in order to maintain which addresses are approved or denied, even when it comes to separating out different ranges, maybe we have a parking lot DHCP range for new clients until they're authenticated by ClearPass, and then we'll give them a permanent DHCP lease. I could go on forever, but yeah, we absolutely do. Are Palo Alto and Checkpoint supported like Fortinet as well? I'm not sure. I know that we've got some upcoming functionality with Palo Alto, and Ronan, I might need to look for you because I'm not sure what we already have out yet. And then Checkpoint, I might have to verify. I'm not quite sure if we have a pre-built integration for Checkpoint.
No, you're right, Jason. We have already an integration with Palo Alto. It is something we are also working with Palo Alto in order to go through some more advanced integration. But yes, we have already an integration.
Excellent. The question is, the EIP integration was shown to the FortiGate, but what about the case where gates are being managed by FortiManager? Can the address objects be sent to FortiManager? I believe that we would need to verify that. In my demonstration, you're absolutely right, I was interacting directly with the individual firewall itself. I believe that is how the integration is constructed, but we'll see if FortiManager is included in that operability. How tight is the integration with ServiceNow from service request automation to change management database updates? So that flow designer process, that no code option within ServiceNow can reference a myriad of objects within EfficientIP. So thinking just far beyond simply what's the next IP address, but we can get into specific identification of objects, tagging with regard to classes and metadata. So that is all tracked, as we had touched on with our integrations there in syslog and user tracking. So now we've got that historical look back on both systems, on the ServiceNow side as well as the EfficientIP side, for those changes as they've occurred through the environment. Next question: the communication with NAC solution will be unidirectional or bidirectional? As Renan mentioned earlier in the call, the APIs can get as complex and robust as we would like them to, up to and including recreating the user interface of the product itself. So we can absolutely support bidirectional communication with network access control systems to make sure that we're giving those clients the right address and that those systems are aware of what's happening in the environment.
And it is what we are doing with Cisco IAC. We are retrieving the list from the Cisco IAC platform and then manage, as we have seen during the demo, the association between the MAC address and then push back the information to the Cisco IAC. So it's a push and get information.
Yeah, and then another question: where can I find the documentation for all the integrations like EfficientIP and ServiceNow? Yeah, so everyone's going to go home with something today. We're going to share the recording. We're going to share the slides. We're going to share the hyperlinks and the URLs around where to go on the internet for these items. And then I would say beyond that scope, your local EfficientIP account team will be able to handle any other questions you might have. Support matrix available on portal. Yes, and I believe this is an area that we're actively contributing to. If we're referring to the list of all of the vendors and the integrations that we have. So we are working on improving that sort of central repository list and information in our portal. But if you don't see a specific integration, don't think that it absolutely doesn't exist. I would say in any and all cases there, check with your account team, and we'll make sure that we give you the most current information.
So yes, I'm sorry, Jason.
Yeah.
Effectively, we have an integration with Panorama from Palo Alto in order to help in managing the security policies. Okay.
All right. No more. Doesn't appear to be any more questions.
So thank you very much for participating to this webinar. We hope that you have enjoyed the information we have shared. Do not hesitate to come back to your EfficientIP representative in order to get additional information, and we will be more than pleased to help you to start or improve your automation journey. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you all.